working with U.T.A through the Fulbright organization. And I'm here also with Ezequiel, Aleman.
Yeah, I am the English Language Program Coordinator, and we're collaborating with Emily to have a series of online sessions on academic writing.
And so our first online session will be about writing abstracts. And so we decided that we would focus on abstracts because they're really important. They're more, we'd like to say, science gatekeepers. They compel people to either read the article or they turn them away from reading it. So things like a highly impersonal abstract or one that lacks sufficient information can turn readers away from your article. So this is really important, especially for articles written in Spanish, because an abstract in English may be the only impression that the reader can get to the information you're presenting. So abstracts usually have three main functions. They can be a standalone mini text, so that's something that the reader can fully understand your research argument without having to read the rest of the article. The reader will continue to read the full article to learn more about methods, results, conclusions, if they're interested in what they see laid out in the mini text. And they can also be screening devices. So this is going back to the idea that they're gatekeepers. Abstracts will help a researcher or student to tell a useful article from one that doesn't serve purposes for the study they're doing. And they can also serve as a roadmap. So that's laying out what will be presented in the full article so they know what to expect in every section and can understand that going in.
So here we have the first activity of today. We have an abstract. We didn't include the source. We didn't include the author, the name of the book, of the article actually, because we want you to read it very carefully. And then on the lower part of your screen on the left, you have a question. It says, "What field does this abstract come from?" And you have four options: epidemiology, political science, social work, contemporary world history. When you finish reading the abstract, we want you to click on the correct option. Is that clear for everyone? If it's clear, you can write OK on the chat box. Somebody has already answered. That's good. So just read it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Six people are in, 15 people are here, so we have 9 people to go.
Yeah, so I'll just go through and read the abstract so you can see what it says. So many scholars claim that democracy improved the welfare of the poor. This article uses data on infant and child mortality to challenge this claim. Cross-national studies tend to exclude from their samples non-democratic states that have performed well. This leads to the mistaken inference that non-democracies have worse records than democracies. Once these and other flaws are corrected, democracy has little or no effect on infant and child mortality rates. Democracies spend more money on education and health than non-democracies, but these benefits seem to accrue to middle and upper income groups.
Brilliant. I think we're ready to finish this poll now. There we are. So 100% of the people who participated in this poll said this is a political science abstract, which is correct. Now, let's go to the second part of this activity.
Yeah, and that's asking whether or not this is indicative or informative. So indicative abstracts lay out a table of contents that the article will cover. So they present first, we're going to talk about this and go through the steps. While informative abstracts, on the other hand, summarize the main findings and may also include some background information or information on methods. So for the second survey that will pop up in a minute, we want to know if you think is this indicative or informative.
So you can choose here whether this is an indicative or informative abstract. Remember, indicative means it's just a table of contents, while informative, it summarizes findings, and it may also add additional information on methods, background information. So what do you think? Is this an indicative abstract or an informative abstract? And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write it on your chat box so we can answer. We have 3 answers already for trying to think. Is this just a table of contents, or are there some findings included in the abstract already? A few more seconds for you to think about this. Try to look for any findings in this abstract. Alright, so let's finish the survey here. Can you all see the results? Can you all see the results? Okay, good. Most people said that this is an informative abstract. Now let's see why. There's a clause here, there's a sentence here that helps us to define whether this is informative or just indicative. So we're going to go to the next slide. Here we have a clause that says democracy has little or no effect on infant and child mortality rates. This could be a conclusion to this article. So that's why we say this abstract, is informative and not just indicative. We already have some information on what the final conclusion of this article will be.
And so in abstracts, you can see 5 main moves that can be identified. The first move introduces background information, historical context, current claims to introduce the topic that you'll be discussing. The second move will introduce the main purpose of the paper. And then the third move will explain the methods you follow to achieve that purpose. How is it done? And finally, you may introduce your results and what they mean to you, what you discovered, and also the discussion of conclusion, significance of your results. And due to word limits or specific characteristics of the paper, some of these moves may not be present. In fields like medicine, you'll usually see all of these, but in other fields, maybe from the social sciences, there's a tendency not to discuss move 3 or a few of the other moves as well. And for more information on how often you see these, go to the website that's on the bottom there, and it has some statistics in table 4 about
we tried increasing the volume in our mics. If you have any problems to listen to us, please let us know, okay? And we'll try to get closer to the mic too. So, as you can see, there are 5 different moves, but of course, I mean, whether you're going to use the 5 of them or not, it's something that the writer will decide. And it usually varies depending on the field you belong to, okay? So, let's move on to the next slide. Do you have any questions so far? You can type no, so we know you're there. Thank you, Evan. Thank you. No, sir, I like that. The no, sir. Yeah. I feel important. So, how do you identify the moves in an abstract? For example, who can help me identify move 1, the background information in this abstract? You can type the sentence. I don't think you can draw with me. I'm not sure. But it is that we can highlight with different colors. We're going to use yellow to begin with. Which sentences, you can use numbers, in which sentences can you see background information? In which sentences can you see background information? Lucia is saying in the first sentence, you're correct. Many scholars claim that democracy improves the welfare of the poor. It's what the writer is doing here is introducing a typical consumption people have. And there's another one. There's another sentence which talks about thank you, Florencia, thank you very much. Cross-national studies tend to exclude from their samples non-democratic states that have performed well, blah, 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 blah. This is also background information. First and third sentences are move 1 in this abstract. Well, who can help me identify move 2? Remember that move 2, if we go back, means present, research, or purpose. I mean, what is this a study about? Let's use another color. Where is the main purpose? Leticia says the second sentence. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Evan. This article uses data on infant and child mortality to challenge this claim. This is their objective. They're going to use data to show us that even in democratic countries, the poor do not have a better life than in non-democratic countries. So you were right. Move 3 is about methods and results. Can you find that here? This is a tricky one.
It's harder.
Yeah, that's a bit harder. Can you find any mention on the methods? How they're going to do this? How they're going to prove this? Where it says once these and other flows are corrected, democracy has little or no effect on infant child mortality rates. Seems more like a comment. We're talking about methods, how they're going to prove this. Lucy says maybe there isn't. That's what I thought the first time I read it. But there's one very brief mention on how they're going to do this. Are they going to interview people? Are they going to just look at, I don't know, interviews changes they have made to people who are living in democratic and non-democratic countries? It's difficult to find. Yeah, I know. I'll give you a hint. It's part of one of the sentences you already used. Thank you, Maria Laura, you're there. This article uses data. Here it is. We can change the one with a different color. Uses data. This is the only thing we get about the methods. What they're telling us is they are going to use data to prove this. Okay? They have information that can be objective about this claim about child mortality in democratic and non-democratic countries. So as you can see, in political science or in social sciences in general, the move 3 is not very much emphasized. Now, if you were a doctor writing a paper on medicine, well, people will care about how you got to your conclusions, right? Any questions so far, or can we go to move 4? Where is move 4? Where are the conclusions of this article?
Results.
Have I used all the colors? The results, sorry. Yeah. Where are the results? Yeah, this sentence is correct. Democracies spend more money on education and health than non-democracies, but these benefits seem to accrue to middle and upper income groups. There's another sentence which is also doing that, which is the 4th sentence, when it says, once these and other flaws are corrected, democracy has little or no effect on infant and child mortality rates. So this whole thing here is move 4. It's telling us what the conclusion, what the final conclusion of this article will be. Can you see move 5? Remember, move 5 was discussions of the conclusion. I mean, what do these findings mean to us? Sorry. There. Can you see move 5 here? Laura says no. Let's do 5. These benefits seem to accrue to middle and upper income groups. Yeah, but you know what? Move 5 is actually talking about why are these findings important? Like, for example, okay, this means that, or this is crucial for research in political science because of this, this, and this. I mean, move 5 is actually, yeah, thank you, Lucia, for asking again. Move 5 is more about why are my results important? Or why do my results care, to other people? In that case, we can see move 4 is very clear. We have the conclusion. When it says these benefits seem to accrue to middle and upper income groups, like you said, Lucia, you're just adding to the conclusion. Right? You're saying, yeah, democracies spend more money in education, right? But the poor don't get those benefits. So in the end, it's the same problem. So it's just adding to the same idea that there's no difference in terms of democratic and non-democratic countries and the quality of life of the poor. So would you say there's a move 5 here? You can type yes or no. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not. Maria Laura, Evan, Florencia, thank you very much. Yeah, in this case in particular, at least Emily and I believe there's no move 5, or at least, and if there is one, it's not very clear, because it's not explaining to us why these findings are important. Okay, which they may do in the conclusion. Okay. Another thing you have to take into consideration is, are the moves in the order we described them at the beginning? Exactly, no. This means that sometimes the order of moves is flexible, and as we mentioned before, not all the moves may be realized. In this case, for example, there is no obvious move 5. For example, one move 5 for this one would be that this study shows that there is a liberal bias in many political science studies. That could be a good move 5, because you're telling the community, the political science community, you know what, you're not using the right information, you're not using the right data to show how mortality rate is affecting democratic and non-democratic countries. Okay. So if you don't have any further questions, we can go to opening sentences.
Yeah, so there are a few different ways to start your abstract. So you can either start with purpose, so talking about what the study is. So things like the purpose of this study was, the aim of this research is, or maybe a phenomenon. So talking about how common things are, or manufacturers would like to be able to predict and avoid spontaneous formations of cracks in biscuits, things like that. Or practices. And then also you could start with research or action. So as you can see, purpose would be more starting with move 2. Or you could mix it up and start with move 3, which isn't as common, starting with research or action. But there's also the phenomenon and practice, which are move 1, kind of introducing the context for the abstract. And so once you have your first sentence, one really important thing is deciding how to link the first and the second sentence. And there are 3 ways that you can do that. You can either continue with the same subject that you started with in the first sentence, or a second way is to capture the subject. So you do that by adding new information in the second half of the first sentence to lead into what you want to talk about in the second sentence. Or the final way is to use a completely new subject. Sorry. All right. Yeah, and so when you're continuing with subjects, an example of that would be the first sentence is, the purpose of this study was to analyze the influence of something on mortality. And continue saying, this was a multi-center perspective observational study. So in both of those sentences, you're talking about the study, and the second sentence is just used to provide more information about the study, the topic of the first information, the first sentence.
So yeah, so basically by using this, that, these, or those, you're keeping the same subject. Okay. Everybody's asking which one is better. I don't think that there's one is better. I think it depends on what you want to say. We're going to see some examples, an exercise at the end, and you tell me which one you like the most. Okay? So let's go to the next one. So continuing subject means you have a subject here, and then on the second sentence you continue with the same subject. Of course, you're going to use a demonstrative pronoun, for example, to replace the original subject. Second option is,
you could also capture the subject. So what that looks like is the first sentence will say, the purpose of this study was to identify risk factors and to characterize infants with transient tachypnea of the newborn, or TNN. And that leads into a total of 67 newborns with TTN born at gestational age greater than 35 weeks were studied. So you start out talking about one subject, the purpose of the study, but in that same sentence you bring up what you want to continue talking about. So you're continuing talking about infants, newborns with this disease as well.
So you stop talking about the study as a subject and you turn to, for example, in this case, the children or the infants with TTN. As you can see here, the second part of the sentence introduces infants with TNN, and then on the second sentence, you start the sentence using those infants as a subject. This is called capturing the subject.
And another option is to use a completely new subject. So an example of this is the objective of this study was to define the variable associated with birth after cesarean section. And then we searched our computerized database for parturients with a history of something. So you go straight from talking about the study to then introducing we, the researchers, what we did to carry out this, our methods. And one thing to note about this is, since abstracts are so compressed, there's so little space, new sentences are very common because you don't have time always to lead into what you're talking about.
Okay, so this could answer Evan's question about which one is better. I wouldn't use the word better, but yes, it's more common to use new sentences. And now we have Lucia's question, which says, is it okay to use the first person? And the answer is yes, especially in the areas in research groups, for example in physics, it's very common to use the word we, talking about what the team did in order to gather the information they need.
Yeah, okay. It depends on the format also. Like talking about first person is also more common if you're carrying out a presentation instead of just writing an abstract for a paper. Then you might say this article or this research, but yeah, either one is okay.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we could go on and on a lot for many hours about how to add some personal, character to your abstract. And there are many ways to do it, but using the first person is one of those. And remember, the abstract is trying to attract the readers to your paper. So you're trying to show them, hey, I did something here, which is new, which brought up new results. So it's not bad at all. It's good practice. Don't worry about it. Now, if you're going to use first person to talk about something which is not your opinion or which is not something you discovered, there you might be in trouble because you're saying we, you're saying somebody else. So let's move on to the next activity. I'm going to give you a series of opening sentences, and then I'm going to give you different second sentences. And you have to tell me if they are continuing, capturing, or new subjects. Okay? Let me change the question. Just 1 second. Okay. Let's go. So here we have one first sentence.
Yeah, so if we look at the first sentence here, it says, the purpose of this study was to identify risk factors and to characterize infants with transient tachypnea of the newborn, TTN. So a total of 67 newborns with TTN born at gestational age of greater than 35 weeks were studied.
So is that a new subject, a capturing subject, or a continuing subject? Choose the correct options. We have 3 answers already, but 18 people. Come on, there are 15 people who are being lazy. Come on, hurry up. Now we have 7. Thank you. We have some doubts here. We have a contested. Okay, we give you 10 more seconds. Is it capturing the subject, or is it using the first subject, the subject which is the purpose of this study? And good. So we got different results here. So obviously this is a difficult one. The subject of the first sentence was the purpose of this study. So the subject was the study. Now, if I look at this one, it says the subject is a total of 67 newborns with TTN. So what we can definitely discard here is that this is a continuing subject. We are not continuing the subject. But in the first sentence, we introduced infants with TTN. And here we have the newborns, the infants with TTN. So the right answer for this one is continuing subject.
Capturing.
Sorry, capturing. I was wrong. Capturing subject. So if you can see it, the second part of the first sentence introduces the subject of the second sentence. Right? What about the next one? What about sentence B? It says, we studied a total of 57 newborns with TTN born at the gestational age of over 35 weeks. Are we... I think I didn't open it. Didn't finish this one, did I?
No, this is...
Sorry. Okay, we have 6 people who already answered. That means 13 people did it. I will show you the results. Some people say it's continuing, some other people say it's new, some people are changing their minds. That's good, don't worry about it. So remember, the subject was the purpose of this study. And here the subject is we. So what's going on here? Are you all set? Some people changing their mind, thinking it over. Well, the answer is this is a new subject, completely new subject, because we're talking about the study, and now you're talking about you, about we, and how you studied the newborns with TDN and what you did with them. So in this case, we is the correct answer. The new subject. And let's go now to C. The study examined a total of 67 newborns with TDN born at the gestational age of 35 weeks. Are we creating a new subject, or is this a continuing or capturing subject? We're still having some lazy people. They don't want to click on anything, just in case. It's anonymous, nobody will know. Good, so let's finish there. There you have the results. Most people said it was a continuing subject, and that's the correct answer, because in the first sentence, the subject was the purpose of this study. And now you continue. The study examined a total of 67 newborns with TDN. Yes, you're right. You're saying exactly the same thing, but you're just changing the approach on how to do this. So on the first option, you were focused on the number of newborns you studied. In B, you're focusing on who did the research, and on the last one, you are more focused on what the study was like. They're saying exactly the same thing, but this is something you have to decide before you write a second sentence. Should we try for another one, or should we just skip it? Yeah. We have another exercise we're going to skip with a different sentence. We can send you the presentation after we're done, so you can take a look at it and maybe use it with your students if you're teachers, or just try to solve it yourselves. So now comes the hard part.
Yeah, so this is one of the trickiest things when you're writing an abstract, is compressing method descriptions. Since there are often word limits on abstracts, you can't describe the methods as fully as you might like to. Yeah, since they can be a lot more complicated to explain, but you have maybe one, maximum 2 sentences to describe the whole process you used. And we can take, for example, the methods section that's included here on this slide. So it starts out with moves 1 and 2. Increasing globalization is thought to be impacting business communications around the world. To assess possible impacts in one developing country, we examine contemporary written business communications in Turkey. So those two are perfect, connected. But then move 3 says the primary data used to consist of approximately 300 memoranda, internal correspondence, and 150 fax messages, external correspondence, associated with 4 different Turkish companies, selected to represent a range of sectors, sizes, and management styles. Analysis of the primary data was supported by interviews with executives from these 4 companies. So it sounds wonderful, but it's 50 words. It's way too long for an abstract.
Yeah, consider that some journals, they just limit the writer to a 200-word abstract. That means that if you use 50 words for methods, you may be not allowing yourself to describe your conclusions, the importance of your research. So there must be a way to compress this, and it's not easy. But we can have a short exercise here. Here I included some fragments from the move 3 on this abstract. Which ones do you think that should be kept in the section? I mean, I want you to take the ones that you think are very, very important, so you cannot eliminate them. You can take the ones you think are very, very important. They can't be eliminated. You can take more than one. You can take all of them if you think they're all important. I mean, which sections of the method section are so relevant they cannot be eliminated? So take all of them. If you have any questions about the activity, let us know. Take all the ones you think are important. Remember, you can take more than one. At least, I think that at least 3 could be kept, so that we can reduce this method section from 50 words to, let's say, 30 words. Yeah. Now we're having more place. Let's give you 1 more minute so we can get more results. Elements which cannot be taken out. How is that? Okay, I think we're not getting any more answers, so let's show them to you. There you are. Can you see the results? Yeah, good. So most of you mentioned that the primary data used, analysis of the primary data should be kept. My advice here would be, you can make 1 sentence out of the 2 of those, right? Now, when it talks about primary data, what is it talking about? What is it? What is the primary data on this research? Exactly, yeah, it's repetitive, so we can just compress it and make it one sentence. And when it says primary data, what is it talking about? Memoranda is primary data. Exactly, the 300 memoranda and the fax messages. This could be kept. We can eliminate the internal correspondence, external correspondence clarification. And there's another type of data they used that most people did not include in the survey. I was surprised about that. There's one more thing that could be included. It was not just reading memoranda or, fax messages. What else did they use to gather data on this issue? On how reading business communication works in Turkey? Exactly, Maria Laura, the interviews. Adriana, thank you very much. Joaquin also. The interviews with executives is also part of the data. So we have very little time left. I was planning to ask you to write a very short abstract, but we don't have much time left. So we're going to show you some examples. Let's go to here. Here we have 3 examples of the same method section. There.
Alright, so version 1 is saying the primary data consists of internal and external correspondence, faxes, from 4 very different Turkish companies. Secondary data comes from interviews with selected executives. It's only 24 words. Then version 2, the main data consists of 300 memoranda and 150 faxes associated with 4 Turkish companies, representing a range of different types of enterprise. And the third version, internal memoranda and external faxes were collected from 4 Turkish companies of different size and management styles. This primary data was supported by secondary interviews. So if you look at the length of all of these, they seem a lot better, much shorter than the 50 words. Should we survey which ones they like best? Should we survey which ones they like best? Yeah, so which of these do you think is the best way to shorten the abstract, the methods?
Manila is voting for version 3. It seems more complete. I agree, because if you look at it, it mentions the interviews. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I also agree with Lucia, though, that I think version 2 includes the scope of the study. It talks about the numbers, the 300 memoranda, 150 faxes. But I think I would like it more if it also mentioned the interviews, too.
Yeah, secondary interviews, internal memoranda, and external faxes. Look, that they all mention the Turkish companies, so that they are trying to show that this was not just data from one company, but from different companies instead. So that's important too. But the interesting thing here is that, we were able to reduce the method section in the abstract from 50 words to 25 words. This is clear and easy to understand, and you're not using all the words we were using in our original version. So when you write your compressed method section, try to make sure you are including the essential information. The information you click here on this exercise, okay? So yeah, we all agree it's 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3 looks like the best options. Economic and effective. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. So the difficult part.
Yeah. So the last part is concluding sentences, which have become significantly more important in the past decades, because this can be something you use to attract readers. But but there are two main questions when you're trying to write a concluding sentence. Do you jump right into the main findings, saying things like smoking aids concentration, or do you start with a formulae, some sort of reporting that leads into your findings, like the present findings provide further evidence, or these data show? And the second question is about the tense you use. Should it be in past or in present? So if we look more closely at the first question, with reporting verbs, so usually these are best used if you're using it to either strengthen your statement or admit there's some uncertainty left. So if you're hedging your statement, maybe you say these preliminary results suggest. So you aren't saying it very directly, you're saying there's still some doubt left. Or it can strengthen your argument by saying the present findings provide further evidence, or our findings clearly demonstrate that. Usually, since abstracts are such a short amount of space, it might be better to omit these, to leave these out, unless you're using them for a good reason, to either hedge or strengthen a claim.
If you're not sure which kind of formulae you should use for your own abstracts, read other people's abstracts. This helps you a lot to get ideas on how to do it. What is more common in your field of study? That helps a lot. Reading articles gives you a lot of language to write your own abstracts.
And then looking also at the verb tense. So you can see there are things like simple present, modal verbs, hedged verbs, and past tense. By far, the most popular to use is the present tense. By using present tense verbs, studies communicate the contemporary relevance of their findings. There are occasional cases where past tense should be considered, though, and there are a few good examples on the slide. So talking about things like outcome was favorable in 85% of the cases, or a simple prediction scoring model was developed, or in practice, the risk score identified both asymptomatic and symptomatic cases. And these are unique compared to most concluding statements because they're specifically talking about the context of the study. In general, if you're talking about things that are more applicable beyond your own study, you want to use the present. It's a lot more engaging. It's up to your discretion, but I think the present is much more commonly used.
So to summarize, when you're going to write an abstract, you should think first about what you're going to include in your introduction. Is it going to be a background information, a phenomenon, some common practice? That's something you have to decide. It has to be one sentence. And then you have to go on and think about the link to the second sentence. Okay? You can link to move 3, to move 2, that will depend on your paper, but you need to think about how you're going to do this link, right? The next thing is how you're going to introduce your methods. The compressed version of your methods. Think about that, how to summarize it, how to avoid spending 50 words on something that may not be that relevant unless you're in the area of medicine or some specific areas where methods are really, really important. And finally, when you write your conclusion, think about the tense, probably present tense will be better, and think whether you're going to use any formula to hedge your final findings or conclusions. These are like the 4 elements you must take into account while you're writing. Okay? So there's a book you may consult, which is very, very interesting. You have lots of activities like the ones we showed you today, which is called Abstracts and the Writing of Abstracts by Swales and Fee. Yeah? It was written in 2003. Unfortunately, you cannot buy it in an ebook version, so you have to buy it in a hard copy. You can find it on Amazon or You have a link there to the printhouse. And there's another book we have here at E.T.A, and if somebody wants it and you want to take it home to take a good read, or not. This one is called, where's the camera here? Academic Writing for Graduate Students, also by Swales and Feig. It's a wonderful book. It mentions abstracts, but it focuses on the whole research article process. It's a wonderful book. Lots of activities to make you reflect on your current writing. If you're writing any kind of research article, or if you're teaching students how to do that, this book is a must-have. And of course, I mean, it's available for, we are very generous and we like lending our books as long as you return them. Do you have any final questions about our presentation today? Anything you would like us to do in the future? We are planning to have some new presentations, new workshops in the near future. But whatever you would like to say right now is wonderful. And we will also be sending you an email for you to complete a survey on our presentation today. Lucia, when you say the details, you mean the details of the book? Yes, I can write it right here in the notes. It's called Academic Writing for Graduate Students. Swales and Feig are the writers. Michigan series in English for academic and professional purposes. Yes, Leticia, we're going to have more sessions like this one. In the survey, they're going to ask you what other things would you like to learn about. It can be academic writing. It can be about effective communication. We are open to your suggestions. If we know something about it, we can make the presentation. If we don't know much about it, we can ask people who can help us. So, yeah. Yes, Maria Laura, you can follow E.T.A on Facebook, Twitter, and usually we post our online workshops there. There are some workshops in Spanish which are very interesting. And we can send, and we also have the recordings of all our sessions. So if you miss a presentation like this one, you can watch the recording at home at another time. So thank you all for coming. You take Facebook page. That's a good question. I think if you type E.T.A on Facebook, it will show up. Just give me 1 second. Here. I'll write it on the notes here on the chat box. It's facebook.com/E.T.A. /E.T.A. And you have our emails on the right. If you want to ask anything about anything, just write us an email. Goodbye, Joaquin. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, everyone. Florencia, that's a good question. I'm going to ask Alvaro Pena, who is the project manager for this event. I suppose we could create a digital certificate for these events. Yeah. If you can, please send us an email requesting that, and we can send you some kind of note or letter or certificate saying that you participated in this workshop. But just send us an email so we don't forget. Yes, I think we can make the digital certificate work. No problem. Upon request, probably. That's going to be easier. You mean my email is here. It's ezekiel.aleman@utech.edu.uy. You just email me there, and I can help you with the presentation, with the certificate. Sorry. you, Odila. Goodbye, everyone. Have a nice day. Goodbye, Lucia. Thank you. Thank you, Maria Laura. It was very nice for us to work with you too. Thank you for your participation today. Goodbye, Ferencia. Thank you, Liliana. Okay, goodbye everyone.